Okay, welcome, Sugar Ones. Welcome to Season 30 Hunter Tier List. We're going to go through the tier list for Season 30 first and foremost. There's going to be 5 categories. You're going to have Opera Party, you're going to have Niche, Tie Guarantee, Doable Without Full Team VC, and 2 Money Counters. You probably do know how this goes, but let's move on towards the tier list then, shall we? Okay, let's move on towards Ember first. Ember will be a part of 2 Money Counters. I know a lot of people are going to say, hey look, but they recently buffed Ember. Yes, I don't disagree that they buffed Ember and the buff was great, right? But then like, there's still way too many things to take into consideration. So the first thing is, okay, now Ember can basically force his Ember to chase after a survivor once you lock onto towards the survivor, yes. But like even with the survivor side, they can kind of just twirl around the Embers itself and to force the Ember to hit into mid-air. And then like, you know, to take a hit yourself. And in a nutshell, basically, just your Embers are kind of useless in that case. Now, in low tier, sure, that's okay. But then if we're talking about maybe around mid to high tier, that's still going to be a little bit hard for you to do. You also do have to consider that, okay, if you don't use your Embers early game and you want to save it for chair camp, now Ember's activation time when you put it near chair is 4.5 seconds. So then like a survivor having a 4.5 second window to rescue, you know, whoever's on chair. To be fair, it's not really that hard, especially when you can twirl around the Ember and force it to hit chair instead. But then like in many cases like this as well, we still do have to consider, you know, there are like GK, there's Gravekeeper, there's Journalist, there's First Officer, there's Mercenary. Those 4 rescuers right there basically just counters Ember's camp to a huge extent as well. So there's multiple things to keep in mind. It's also with the fact that in current day meta, it's not really about harass comps anymore. It's more about solo containment comps and how long you can contain early game, and to see how the Cypher Rush goes in a nutshell, as we have seen as well with the double tie turner meta recently as well. But overall for Ember there, I would say because the rescuers are pretty strong, and also with the fact that like even if you do want to, you know, even if you do bring Instant's attention, sure, look, you know, at the end of the day, even if you do bring Instant's attention, you don't have teleport when you need teleport, and when you use blink, you're kind of just a walking Ember anyways. And most of us, okay, sure, you may say I'll use puppet instead, but if you use puppet, the trade-off is you won't be able to use it for chair camp ever again. And that's also with the fact that like, you know, there's barely any harassers as well. So for your sake as well, when playing Ember, I guess playing against harass teams would be good, but then like in current day meta teams, you're gonna see a lot of lawyers, you're gonna see a lot of aeroplanists, cowboys, who basically doesn't stun you at all. So for Ember in current day meta, I will put him as saying he's 2 money counters, but also at the same time, like, he gains fury when he gets stunned, but there isn't that many stun characters anymore after the harassers has been nerfed. But still, there's a huge trade-off there when it comes to, you know, using your Embers early to get someone down. But if you do that, then you don't have any chair camp potential anyways, and even if you do have your first puppet, you know, sure, look, what can we do? Now, most people may say, hey, why not Patroller Ember? The reason why Patroller Ember still doesn't work is even if you do get a really fast down, you use Patroller, you have no Embers left, and a rescuer is going to guarantee the rescue. And if this survivor still has items on their hands, they can guarantee rebound Kaiju as well. So in this case scenario, if we're going to talk about Ember, right, his early game chase definitely got better. So we'll say his early game chase is average. Ember's chair camp is a kind of below average, simply because of the fact that there's very strong rescuers, and chair camp potential is like, you know, 4.5 second window for the rescuer to rescue, but also the rescuer can dodge your Ember's hitbox really easily as well. And then we can go towards map control. Map control wise, definitely very strong still, but not as strong as other characters. I would say he is around mid in that case. Maybe when you open max presence, it's a little bit stronger, but it's still a bit mid for me. And then you have Cypher Control, which is... Cypher Control is okay, but you need to use your Fury stacks for that. So you need to use your Ember stacks for that when you put on dolls, or when you just summon the Ember yourself. So yeah, there's that for Ember. Okay, next will be Smiley Face. Personally, for me, Smiley Face is currently doable without full VC, full team VC. So it's doable with full team, but not doable with full team VC. So like in this tier, it's like saying, okay, you can play this character if you're against a team without voice chat. A full team without voice chat, you definitely could win. So why for Smiley Face? Now I have emphasized a lot as well on, you know, current day meta, it's all about solo containments, but because of this solo containment potential, you also need to say that, okay, Smiley Face does have this potential. He can definitely get someone down within 60 seconds if it's a good Smiley Face. Sometimes the Smiley Face may not even use blink. But then, like, we also have to think about a lot of the trade-offs here. When it comes to a full team VC, you know, the full team VC is gonna say, okay, what hunter it is, where everyone should rotate, and you know, where they should be at all times. And when you leave for someone, there's definitely gonna be another survivor who pulls away immediately towards an even safer area. So then, like, for Smiley Face, yes, he is definitely good. He is definitely 4-man potential. Without a full team VC, you can definitely win with him. But then, like, you know, it really is with just the fact that, like, okay, so Smiley chase is brilliant. Okay, so he has fast chase, which means he has fast map control, but his very fast map control deteriorates really fast throughout the games, because Smiley Face's map control is only good early game and mid game, maybe not so much late game if you don't have any rockets anymore, if you don't have any rocket propellers anymore, so you can dash infinitely. I think that comes with a problem with Smiley Face. So then, like, if we talk about his map control, you can say it's above average early game, but then it slowly moves down the spectrum, moves down the tier, mid to late game, in that sense as well. Of course we can say, okay, Smiley Face can definitely slug, but even with a slug potential there, it depends on how fast you can get someone down within a pallet area. Now, people may say during the recent optimization of, you know, IDV, Smiley Face has gotten better. I personally do agree with that, but then also, once again, for Smiley Face, it is still really hard though. He does have quite a bit of counters. You need to consider Antiquarian as one of them, triple hit survivors such as Seer and Psychologist as another one. You could even say, like, you know, Prospector could consider as one if you manage to stun during the rocket propeller time. Enchantress is also another one. You have Priestess, you have Coordinator, you have Perfumer, you have, well, First Officer actually gets countered, but then you have Novelist, you have Antiquarian, as we said before, and there's also the case of Journalist as well after her recent buff, and Gamekeeper, and Entomologist, and Batter, and Toy Merchant, you know. So then, like, for Smiley Face himself, he's definitely winnable, but it's very hard to do so unless you're against a team that doesn't have a full team VC. Next will be Gamekeeper. I would put Gamekeeper I will probably put Gamekeeper above Ember, simply because of the fact that Gamekeeper's chase throughout the whole game is very strong. It goes from above average to, like, really, really, really good. Right, it goes from above average to, like, exceptionally well, especially with the fact that Bane recently definitely did get a buff. But even with the buffs there, increasing Fury Hook recasting time from 3 seconds to 4 seconds, which is brilliant. But that's only at endgame as well. So for Gamekeeper himself, his chase is definitely brilliant. You can use traps to stop certain areas from being looped across. But then, like, you also do need to consider the fact that for a Gamekeeper main, his early game is a little bit I would say his early game is a little bit meh. Two reasons. Reason number one being the fact that if you can't get a good hook on towards the survivor early game and get a blink down, it's going to be really bad for you. And it's also with the traps. The traps are sometimes very luck dependent if the survivor can't see whether you place the traps properly or not. Sometimes you may see survivors flywheeling your trap to immediately disable your trap, but I also don't agree with the fact that Gamekeeper can hook flywheel survivors now and basically catch up to them immediately, which is brilliant. But once again, tie-kiting against a Gamekeeper early game is one of the best ways to counter Gamekeeper as well. For current day IDV meta, you need to get someone down fast enough. Unless the survivors are making big mistakes and letting you get a free hit and another free hit without using blink, I would say it's still very hard for you to win. Maybe to tie, yes, it's a little bit easier to tie in this case scenario, but to win, there's still a lot to consider as well, because you can definitely sell against a Gamekeeper. Now, if we talk about a Gamekeeper, chase is definitely above average to distinctionally very well, right? Maybe meta chase, but it's also... But then, like, if we think about Cypher control, it's none. Map pressure is actually good, very good, average to above average when it comes to, you know, max presence. But chair camp is the chair camp is kind of 50-50 sometimes, I won't lie. Even though you may say, okay, I can hook and then try get Terror Shock on towards the survivors, I would say even if you do manage to do that, that's still very rare. I'd say Smiley Face has a higher chance of doing that instead of a GK, I won't lie. I do think like that, because I feel like for Smiley Face at least you can slug, but for GK it's on the other hand it's kind of like you're basically gambling a lot in that case scenario. So for me right now, GameKeeper is definitely a part of too many counters. Okay, let's move on towards Ripper. Ripper will be a part of too many counters as well, but I guess in Ripper's case scenario, it's a little bit similar to GameKeeper. Now, Ripper did get a little bit of a buff adjustment there with the fact that, you know, they basically will generate a small fog space near a downed survivor and near survivors who have been chaired. Now, this is brilliant for Ripper in order to counter, let me emphasize on this, in order to counter harassers. But because this is used to counter harassers, for Ripper mains themselves, early game is still potentially very weak for a Ripper. Even if you do manage to land a Foggy Blade, I would say you're probably going to be forced to blink it down. Now, when we talk about Ripper, Ripper's chase goes from below average to, you know, above average. That's what I would say, when from like no presence to max presence. But even in this case scenario as well, Ripper's, because this game is really early game based, it's really like, okay, we need to make sure we have an early game here. Then like, you know, in this case scenario as well, if the survivors are able to continue 30 seconds without getting a Foggy Blade, you probably are going towards a tie or a loss game, is what I would say, unless you do a brilliant chair camp. But if we move on towards the chair camp side, I would say, you know, it's hard to make the survivors fail rescue, but I would say it's doable to make the survivors into a double down situation. So there's 2 survivors that goes down. Now, why am I saying this? Once again, it's to reiterate on the recent rescuer buff, right? Like the recent rescuer buff. Also with the fact that Puppeteer is also coming out, another really great counter against, you know, chair camp hunters like this, who can basically tank half a one full normal attack damage, right? So then, like in Ripper's case, it's also with the fact that, like, okay, you have a mercenary who can elbow pad immediately to rescue, so maybe he can just take your Foggy Blade instead and then go away. Or it's with the fact that, like, you have a Gamekeeper who can come in without worry, you have a Journalist who has a little Orphe, you have, who else is there as a rescue? You have Cordy who can just gun rescue immediately, you know, there's so many options there. So like for Ripper's chair camp, Ripper's chair camp is really just average. There's nothing, there's not too much mind game onto it. If the survivors decide to hug Ripper, as in like stay close to Ripper and force Ripper to do the basic attack hits, it's still just going to be a normal hit anyway. So on Ripper's side, for chair camp side as well, it is really average. So then, like, map control wise doesn't really have anything, cipher control wise also doesn't really have anything. So Ripper is really about the chase. Ripper is really about just the chase. Next, we will have Soul Weaver. Soul Weaver will be a part of a tie guarantee in this situation for me as well. Now, Soul Weaver is a little bit better than Smiley Face. It is also a little bit better than Ripper, Gamekeeper, and Ember. 2 reasons. Reason number 1 being the fact that Soul Weaver can shop without any problems. Now, you may say, hey Kudo, but isn't this the same as Smiley Face then? If both characters can just roam around the map without any penalty, since, you know, Smiley Face can only make a dash and Soul Weaver can just walk and keep getting webs. Well, the main difference here is Soul Weaver's chase is always going to be good, right? Soul Weaver's chase is always going to be above average. Soul Weaver's chair camp is still going to be much better than Smiley Face to an extent as well, especially with a double spit potential. It will still be a little bit better than Smiley Face in my opinion. And it's also with the fact that Soul Weaver doesn't really have to worry about being harassed too much, because even if Soul Weaver gets harassed, she can immediately get another web out and gain her triple web stacks, move, and speed boost to catch up towards the survivor immediately. So what does this mean? Soul Weaver nullifies tie containment, a tie kite spaces, and Soul Weaver can catch up to survivors immediately with her webs, as long as she has webs. Especially with early game as well, when you want to find a survivor who you want to chase, after you get rid of all the pallets, you can immediately web thread, triple web thread towards the survivor, get a hit, and then probably blink down immediately right afterwards if you just use 1 or 2 webs there as well. So Weaver's chase is above average throughout the whole game. So Weaver's chair camp is okay, I would say. Soul Weaver's chair camp is between average and above average. Now, why am I saying Soul Weaver's chair camp is good? It's because of the fact that Soul Weaver can at least guarantee a double down situation. Now, we know that when Soul Weaver have triple web stack, Soul Weaver can gain, faster recovery animations, such as breaking pallets are faster, attack recovery are faster, vaulting windows are faster. Right, which is why I'm putting this into the factors as well, that when Soul Weaver has triple web stacks and she hits a survivor, she basically gets, I don't know, maybe it's a 20% attack recovery speed boost. So then there's a huge chance for Soul Weaver being able to hit the rescuer again and then go and chase the survivor immediately. That's what I simply believe, and I think I've seen this quite a bit in meta, in tourneys as well. But then, you also need to consider, Soul Weaver has double spit potential, so you can basically spit the survivor, get the max presence, and immediately refresh the spit. A little bit similar to Bloody Queen with the mirrors, but with Soul Weaver, you can basically double spit to half health and then get them down immediately. Especially with the fact that once you get the single spit on towards the survivor, they're already slowed in this case scenario as well. So getting the second spit on shouldn't be too hard. It's also with the fact that Soul Weaver does counter Cowboy as well, Soul Weaver does counter harassers as well when it comes to balloon harassing, so there's that side as well for Soul Weaver. Next we have Geisha. Geisha will be a part of niche in this situation. Now Geisha, we've talked about quite a lot of things about Geisha, right? So Geisha has map pressure, Geisha has good chase, and Geisha has an average camp. Let's just talk about the chase first. So for Geisha early game Geisha from 0 presence to max presence. 0 presence just means that you can dash butterflies at normal rate. Max presence just means that you can dash towards a butterfly even faster. Now for Geisha, especially in this, this current day meta, it probably isn't too bad for Geisha to chase after, those survivors that pull distance very fast, such as Patience, such as Aeroplanist, such as Cowboy, etc, etc. So then for Geisha, she really has a lot of rooms to play around here, especially in ranked even in 4-man teams. I would say Geisha has more chance in winning than tying if she gets an early down. But of course, since it is a single hit hunter, early down potential has to be high for them to win. But it's also with the fact that even if the survivors do sell, you're able to basically departure and then dash out immediately to look for the next survivor ASAP. So there's also that side as well. So Geisha's chase is from Geisha's chase is from average to above average. That's what I will say, right? From no presence to max presence, just because of how fast the butterfly dashes, it really depends. But even with that on mind, for Geisha herself, if we talk about a chair camp a little bit, you may say, okay, Geisha's soul departure is kind of bad. Now, I don't disagree with you, Geisha's soul departure is kind of bad, but then there's a recent new, most Geisha main should know this, but Geisha is allowed to dash towards a butterfly that's beneath her, and then when she dashes towards a butterfly beneath her, she basically gets a drop down animation of, like a 1 second drop down animation, in which if you hit, it's a no attack recovery animation, and it basically catches the rescuer off guard if they come into rescue immediately. So you can basically guarantee a double hit in that situation as well. Is it hard to do? Yes, it is. Is it impossible? No, not at all. I've done it quite a few times in Unicorn, not in Dragon, of course, because I'm not playing Geisha in Dragon and Hydra tier, because I'm just not proficient enough. But it is still doable there as well for pro Geishas. It's also with the so then for chair camp boys, it's I would say it's average. It's not like she doesn't have any chair camp. Her chair camp really is just average, not below average there as well. Geisha overall has good map control because she is butterflies. She can departure and dash immediately towards, you know, the next kiting area vicinity. Tie kiting wise, I guess you could say tie kite does counter her a little bit, but not too much, because now Geisha has much more flexibility in where she can throw the butterflies. Now in the scenario in which Survivors picks up your butterfly and starts staring at you, I guess in that case scenario it is a bit of a oofus doofus moment for you. But overall for Geisha, because of her leeway of dashing, because she can dash through short objects, because, you know, even if the Survivor does manage to pick up your butterfly, you can still dash to them, wall clip, and, you know, there's still a little bit of chair cam potential there. For Geisha overall, still pretty niche, I would say. She didn't really get any buffs or adjustment, and in current day meta, you can play Geisha against all the distance pulling hunters as well. Well, not hunters, survivors as well. Okay, next will be Woo Woo. Woo will be a part of Doable without full team VC as well. Now, one of the few reasons I think why I put Woo up here is because, you know, Wu-chan runs Insolence most of the time, I would say. But I think it's also with the fact that, like, for a good Wu-chan main, it is a little bit easier for them to ambush a survivor who's on the Cypher machine, which means that they can get a first hit quite fast, or, you know, they can get a first hit quite fast if you're not in a full team VC who keeps saying Woo is teleporting, stop decoding, stop decoding, stop decoding. Now in this case scenario, I would say for Wu-chan will probably be not F tier, but, you know, in Doable without full VC team, especially with the fact that once you get a first hit and Insolence pops, you're probably in Blackguard form, so you can bell them immediately and get a second hit, or just blink them down immediately. That's what I simply believe. But then, like, also in this case scenario, let's just see our options as well. So for Wu-chan early game chase, finding a survivor immediately is exceptionally good. So like that's just like top, right? Really above average there, and basically maxed out stats on that part. But if we're gonna talk about Wu-chan's chase, I would say it starts from below average to above average. Because Woo early game basically has nothing to use except for an umbrella to teleport towards the survivor to get an ambush hit. But if you're not able to do that, there comes the issue with, okay, when can I get the first hit? Am I gonna have to blink hit the survivor and then Insolence pops and then I bell them and get them down? Or would it be a much worse case scenario there for me? Right, so there's so many things you have to think of in that situation. It's also with the fact that, like, for current day meta survivors, it's all about distance pulling. So, like, if they vault over a pallet or a window and then use one of their items to pull even more distance, can you catch up towards the survivor? In a sense, for Wu-chan, yes, with your umbrella you can umbrella teleport towards the survivor immediately. But on the other sense, what if it's during umbrella cooldown? That will also be another issue as well. Which is why I'm saying I'm kind of like a little bit more emphasizing on Wu-chan's ambushing ability when survivors are decoding a Cypher machine, just so you can open Insolence immediately and to basically do whatever the heck you need to do. But also with that fact as well, Wu-chan's chase is below average to above average. Going to above average means that you're basically opening Presence 1. Presence 1 to Presence 2, I guess, to max presence. In a nutshell, when you open Soul Siphon and when you open the Unwavering Bell, Unwavering Soul, the Bell, you know, skill, you probably know that as well from Blackguard, that kind of gives you that kind of brings you up a lot when it comes to, like, average chases, because Soul Siphon can be cancelled 70% in, and the bell just prevents you from using items overall. So even if you're chasing after a harasser, if you bell them, they can't stun you. In a nutshell, they can't stun you or use their items to push you away, which is pretty good, which is honestly speaking pretty good as well for Wu-chan after that adjustment there. But still doable without the full VC team, because his early game is still really bad in this case scenario as well. Now, for Wu-chan's Cypher control, it's basically below average. You could dare to say, okay, if Wu throws an umbrella out towards a Cypher machine, it kind of does force the survivors to stop them from decoding, but it also is a way of, like, you know, saying, okay, I'll just respect this umbrella because I don't want him to TP towards me and get a free hit. You know, that there's also another side on that as well. His map control is, I'd say his map control is decent. it's quite average because he gets a teleport he gets an umbrella teleport every 18 seconds if I'm not wrong, if that's a proper cooldown, but it's around that range, 18 to 20 second cooldown on each umbrella teleport, right? So then like that definitely has to be respected as well. That definitely has to be respected as well. Now it may not be as good as a Geisha, as good as a Wheel, as good as a Dream Witch, as good as a Night Watch, but a teleport is still a teleport there for you. So you know, it's pretty decent map control. Cypher control is basically very below average. You throw an umbrella out, you force them to stop decoding because they do have to respect it, or else you're going to get a free hit there, which is really bad for the survivors. But overall, I guess for Wu, it's doable without a full VC team. But good luck, guys. Good luck, good luck, good luck. Now, moving on, let's go towards Jojo. Jojo, I'll put Jojo a little bit below here. Jojo's going to be below Ember. There's quite a few reasons. First reason is it's been quite a few years since Joseph came out. I mean, it's been 6 years, realistically speaking, 6 to 7 years. I know there's new players coming into play, IDV as well, but I guess overall for Jojo, whether you're in a full-man team or 4-man team or not, you still do get countered anyways. As long as the survivor just stands near another survivor and they both heal each other, in a nutshell, even if it's a small map, it's kind of hard to get that pickup on towards that survivor as well. Jojo more or less has no chase at all, is what I would like to say. Even if you open max presence, that really isn't considered as chase. That is more considered as just trying to counter looping, or just really trying to counter looping in a nutshell. But for survivor side, they can kind of just rotate from the area anyway. So for you yourself, I don't know much for not Joseph, sorry. Yes, for Joseph, for photographer. Photo's a little bit hard on this side as well, because he relies a little bit too much on luck and a little bit too much on whether he can find the first target down or not. Now you may argue that top Josephs in Titan is able to play really well, in which I will say, you know, fair enough. But as a beginner coming in to play Jojo and you're in like Cyclops, chances of you winning as Jojo is, genuinely speaking, really low on that side note as well. Unless you're able to find someone early game and immediately chair them. But even with that on mind, you're chairing someone who hasn't used their items left, right? So then, like, once they get rescued from chair, if they're able to rebound kite, they rebound kite really well. You also do need to realize that as well. Joseph's map control, well, Cypher machine control, goes down when the game, as the game progresses. So then, like, you know, you could say early game his Cypher control is brilliant, but then mid to late game it means nothing. And then, like, his chase is just bad overall. He can counter loose, but his chase is still very bad. He doesn't have map control. If you want to say, okay, teleport and card trick is map control, realistically speaking it isn't, because Opera Singer can do better. Well, maybe not do better, but like realistically speaking, it's not going to work out well, because you're just going to stand in the same location, like same two locations, teleporting back and forward, and you're not going to be able to get much, sadly. So there's also that to note as well. For Jojo, it's a bit unfortunate. For me, it's still very luck based, because like current day meta survivors, everyone has items, and you as a blink Jojo, you either blink someone down or they kite you for really long. But even if you do manage to blink someone down and they still have items on them, realistically speaking, how fast are you going to be able to get them down is another question there for you to answer as well, though. So I mean, for Joseph overall, it's still too many counters for me. He's a little bit too much luck reliant on that side note as well. Now let's move on towards Mad Eyes. We'll move Mad Eyes on the top of too many counters. It's kind of the same as Joseph here. Now it's like, listen, I understand Koa is coming back soon. I understand our first Mad Eyes CN is going to come back and flex on us soon, but we do need to understand a few things. First thing is, Mad Eyes doesn't have any chase. Mad Eyes does have a little bit. Mad Eyes does have Cypher control and does have map control, which is good. Mad Eyes also does have chair cam, but the only issue here is Mad Eyes' chase is very bad. What does this mean? This means that Mad Eyes is a walking hunter with fences. Now, if you want to try chip down the survivors, that's also a possibility. So Mad Eyes' chase is low, but chair camp is high. map control is high, and his cipher control is also high. Now, why is Mad Eyes a part of too many counters? Realistically speaking, if you've one survivor getting rid of console energy and another survivor decoding, you're not going to be able to lock the ciphers anyway. And from the survivor's point of view, it basically only takes 10 seconds to get rid of all of your console energy there. So then, like, that's not too much effort. Just run up to a console, get rid of energy, go back decoding. And it's also the fact that early games matters way too much in current day meta. For a Mad Eyes, if you're not able to get like a down within 3 cipher machines, the chances of you winning are pretty low, because even if you do get the down within 3 cipher machines and you've used blink, you may have the rescuer just coming in with a full body block potential, and then there's a really huge rebound kite potential there as well. So there's a lot of issues there with Mad Eyes on how you actually play him. Now, his skill ceiling is very high. You can definitely win with him. He can definitely become meta, but like, realistically speaking, on the majority side of things, when we consider everything right now, okay, your early game you're gonna have 2 survivors decoding, 1 survivor getting rid of the consoles near the hunter. And for a Mad Eyes who's basically just a walking hunter without consoles on him, and even if he does have consoles, he needs to go towards a console and then utilize the console and use his fences, right? So there's like a lot of cons on that note. Now, once again, I will say I don't disagree. There's very good Mad Eyes out there, but realistically speaking, even if it's a 4-man randoms team, if they know what you're doing, you're kind of screwed. If they generally do know what you're doing, you're kind of screwed. Early game potential is very low for Mad Eyes, unless you're a very brilliant Mad Eyes with like 2,000 games plus played on it. Aside from that, I would say it's very, very, very hard for Mad Eyes to be able to do much. And it's also with the fact that, like, there's new counters coming out for Mad Eyes, but also, like, even if Mad Eyes does manage to get defenses down, all survivors have 3 items. They can just take a hit and rotate somewhere else, and then if you're forced to blink down, you're forced to blink down. What can you do in situations like that, you know? So, like, for Mad Eyes, he does have high map control, he does have high cipher control, he does have high chair camp, but his chase is just so weak to the point that none of his pros matter if he can't get anyone on chair anyways. Now the next is Feaster. Feaster will be part of doable without a full man VC in my opinion. So what does Feaster have? Feaster has tentacles that basically allows you to locate towards the nearby survivors that are not on chair, and basically allows you to chip half health hit the survivors. Now in a nutshell, Feaster is doable without a full man team. I guess he's not too bad, but I wouldn't put him above Joker. I will probably put him in between Joker and Woo here. Now for Feaster himself, he doesn't have good chase, but his chase is below average, let's say. But if he can get a normal hit with tentacle, I'd say that's still pretty good for a Feaster main. And it's also with the fact that, like, his chair camp, he can basically get a double hit potential or even a fail rescue potential on the survivors as well when it comes to chair camping. And his map control is a little bit below average. Tentacles still spawn near survivors, but then, like, survivors does take around 5 to 6 seconds to get rid of a tentacle, but I guess that's still less decoding progress for the survivor, so there's a little bit of the cipher control that I'll add in with the map control. But now, here comes the issue with Feaster. His tentacles are a little bit too easily dodged, because a lot of survivor, whether you're mid or high tier, they basically know, you know, Feaster's tentacle swing animation, and you can kind of just loop around that tentacle or just sidestep it by like a centimeter or 2, and you're gonna be able to fully nullify that hit from the tentacles anyways. But there's also flywheel, there's also the fact that flywheel is also a thing. So I mean, like, at the end of the day, you gotta choose your own poison here. Whether you, even if you do manage to get a very early hit down, can you necessarily say stop Cypher Rush? No, I wouldn't say so. They can still sell, they can still come into rescue and dodge your tentacles to fail your chair camp potential there as well. But I guess one of the good things about Feaster is his basic attack hitbox. It's very long. It's basically the longest attack hitbox in IDV Hunter history right now. Feaster basically has the longest attack hitbox. So potentially saying, you could say that that is a pros, but also with another side, current day meta survivors are all about distance pulling survivors. Cheerleader, Aeroplanist, you have Priestess, you have Mercenary, Forward, Patient, and just many more as well that has 3 or more items to contain it. So with Feaster on that mindset as well, just because it's kind of a bit easy for survivors to dodge your tentacle hits, there's going to be a lot of times in which either the survivors are too far away from you, so then they can play so much mind games with the tentacles that you basically won't be able to get a long distance tentacle hit, or even if there is a tentacle near the survivor and the survivor is near you, the issue with that is the survivor can basically just focus on dodging tentacle hits instead of your normal hits. So then, like, at the end of the day, your elimination progress is still gonna go, your formal elimination rate is gonna go down quite significantly on that side as well. But you know what, still quite doable, because he has that half hit potential there on towards the Feaster and immediate blink down. And of course, sometimes maybe you can say like, okay, I have, tentacles to chair camp, so if I do manage to get this chair camp, this could potentially turn from a loss to a tie or a tie to a win. Now next we'll have Dream Witch. Dream Witch will still be a part of Opera Party, so Dream Witch is still meta at the end of the day. Now I do know that there's, in tourneys it seems like Dream Witch gets countered a lot, but we need to understand that for a round 1 tourney, if a Dream Witch in professional play is able to get a tie, it's a meta hunter. It is honestly speaking still a meta hunter, especially with the fact that when current day survivors is able to get a tie against Opera Singer round 1, Dream Witch round 1 to be able to get a tie is still meta on that side. For Dream Witch's side, she may have received quite a bit of nerfs when it comes to like, deleaching progresses such and such, but overall for Dream Witch, her chase is average, her chair camp is average, her map control is high, and her cipher control is also high. For Dream Witch as well, she can also deploy, more than 2 patrollers down within the same time. Main body patroller by 1 and then leech patroller by another. But then like good Dream Witches know how to sandwich a survivor properly, and good Dream Witches can use their main follower to hit the survivor instead of the leech follower, just so we can leech onto other survivors and get more map control throughout the game. Right, but then again, I guess at the end of the day you could say, hey, but like flywheel counters, Dream Witch. The same what I will say to you, Windows Speed Boost counters Opera Singer. It's like Dream Witch and Opera Singer right now are kind of a it's kind of like yin and yang right now. You use Flywheel to counter Dream Witch, and you use Windows Speed Boost to counter Opera Singer. So for round 1, most people would still prefer to play Opera Singer, but if there's a Dream Witch main, Dream Witch definitely would be a very high priority to come out as well, especially with the fact that they know that everyone is pretty Windows Speed Boost here. So basically no one has Flywheel to cancel my patrollers by. Now you can still cancel patrollers by putting down a pallet or vaulting a window, but at the end of the day, they're like, this is still a rank, it's still a this is still a rank tier list. So then, like, unless you have a 4-man team, but even if you do have a 4-man team, it's still kind of a tie guarantee for Dream Witch on that sense as well. You get someone down with 3 cipher machines are done, you throw one of your leeches near a cipher machine and they can't decode that cipher machine anymore. In a nutshell, that's most likely what would happen. And then like for Dream Witch endgame, Dream Witch's endgame is also very strong. If you don't de-leech, you're kind of screwed, because it's just blink after blink, leech after leech, standing at 1 exegate each, and what can you do really? Nothing much. Now, people may say, okay, you're kind of overestimating Dream Witch a lot, but then like, in rank, Dream Witch is still quite a scary existence. She is still quite a scary existence at the end of the day. Now there are some counters, but usually they don't pick Dream Witch counters in rank that much. Maybe you can say Perfumer, Psychologist, but aside from that, I don't see much people like choosing Dream Witch counters at all, to be fair with you on that part. So Dream Witch will still be a part of Opera Party here for Season 30 tier list. Moving on next, we'll have Axeboy. Axeboy will be a part of tie guarantee here. I don't know whether to put Axeboy above or below Soul Weaver here, but let's just talk about Axeboy. Axeboy has fire souls. Axeboy basically has souls, and these souls can rotate around a survivor when they leave a twisted tree area. So that's kind of nice. It kind of pressures the survivors to make sure they dodge the fire souls, the soul orbs, instead of just running in a straight line. These soul orbs are also full hit damage as well, so 1 hit damage, which means survival will immediately go towards half health. Is it easy to dodge? Yes, but even if you miss, you do gain a movement speed boost there, so we're able to catch up to 2 of the survivors immediately. So what do we know here? Axeboy has chip damage. This chip damage could be potentially used for chair camp. So what do we know? Axeboy's chase starts from average to above average from early game to late game. And then Axeboy's chair camp is also above average because you do have quite a bit of chance to get that normal hit damage on towards the survivor with a resentful road that basically allows you to, that's basically like a skateboard park in which allows you to skate through like a line. Basically, it's just a road on the ground and allows Axeboy to gain movement speed boost, allows him to traverse around the map a little bit faster. And when Axeboy is at max presence, he slows the survivors down when they leave the tree area, when they leave the twisted tree area. Right, so then what does this mean? Current day meta, we still do have, you know, survivors that pull a lot of distance, and if Axeboy is at max presence, then that simply means that Axeboy can get them down immediately. Even if they do pull distance, there'll be a 3-second movement speed debuff there on the survivors as well. So that's good news. Not only does this allow Axeboy to catch up towards the survivor with a resentful road, there's also a huge chance for Axeboy to be able to chip the survivors with his soul orbs that rotates around them when they leave the tree vicinity. Now, people may say for early game Axeboy, the survivors can just get rid of the trees. Now, to be fair with you on that part, right, there also is, you know, area selection mode now, so you're able to spawn near a survivor, and even if the survivor really decides to destroy the trees, it's a 10-second dismantling time. 10-second dismantling time is too much time to be destroying his trees. Axeboy can catch up to you quite fast during that time as well if he realizes you're actually trying to destroy a tree. So most survivor wouldn't really actually have the time to destroy the tree early game. So for Axeboy's first chase, you kinda are somewhat guaranteed souls rotating around survivors, and whether you get that chip hit or not, it's up to you. But for Axeboy, the potential of blinking down when blink is ready is pretty high on that standard as well, to be honest with you. Pretty high, which is why Axeboy is currently on tie guaranteed. I would want to put him on niche just a little bit, but I guess for the, you know, fire souls chipping part, it's not kind of always, it's not a 50% guaranteed. It kind of depends on the survivor as well. If the survivors knows how to dodge fire souls really well, then, you know, then like it's kind of like, oh, this could be a lose game, but it could also potentially be still a tie game because of chair camp as well. So that's why I'm putting Axeboy on tie guaranteed. But you also can't forget that Flywheel also counters fire, also counters the Axeboy soul chips, so basically his fire souls in a nutshell. So yeah, there's that for Axeboy. Next we'll have Evil Reptilian. I'm gonna actually put Evil Reptilian above Geisha for this one. I have two reasons. Reason number one being the fact that Evil Reptilian does not get countered by, you know, survivors looking at Reptilian, so Reptilian can actually jump quite freely. So Reptilian's chase goes from above average early game to exceptionally good, to exceptional. Meaning that when Reptilian opens max presence, you can basically dash around the map as much as you want, unlimitedly, which is brilliant from one side of the map to another as long as you have the energy. And most Reptilians would have the energy to do so as well, just because they don't spam their jumps all the time. So like when a Reptilian reaches max presence, they probably will have like 100 to 115 energy stacks ready to go to jump around the map to look for their next immediate target. But also for Reptilian side, he does have a, you know, a chip damage potential. The chip damage is half health chips, so it's basically, you know, one normal attack, but this half health chip is now AoE, which means it's not single target anymore. It's based on an area of effect. As long as survivors are within this area, everyone gets damage, meaning that if there's 3 survivors within this area when Reptilian crashes down, then all 3 survivors gets damage. If there's a pallet, then the pallet will also be destroyed. Now why is this good? It's because right now for Evil Reptilian, whenever a survivor vaults over a pallet, he can just jump and immediately crash down to break the pallet and also break the survivor's souls apart. Just break their bones in general. So then like for Evil Reptilian, even if you do have a bad early game, you still have a chair camp potential there as well for a double down situation to at least guarantee the tie. But for Evil Reptilian, his mobility is so good early game to the point that it's kind of like, it's kind of, you know, very you just can't miss out on it. I do suggest people like everyone here, Sugar Monster, to play Evil Reptilian when they get the chance this season. He's pretty fun when he reaches max presence, but I guess when it comes to, you know, ranking and all, you you should maximize, you should how do I say, you should play him as much as you can just to maximize his utility effect before he gets a nerf or something with energy stacks. I don't know, but I don't think he'll get a nerf, but he is pretty good. He doesn't have map control until he reaches max presence, just because he can dash around the map a little bit faster. He definitely has no Cypher Machine control, that's for sure, but his chase is from above average to exceptional. His chair camp is above average. His map control is pretty decent. It's average, to be honest with you, when you open max presence, but of course you still need to be careful of your energy stocks on that side note as well. Bloody Queen will also be a part of niche. For Bloody Queen, more or less for Bloody Queen right now, you can, like, if you're like, for Bloody Queen in a nutshell, if you can get a mirror immediately and then get a blink down, it's a tie guarantee. But then if you get 2 mirrors without using blink, it's kind of a win game from then on onwards. But I guess in current day meta with survivors like these, it's kind of hard to land your mirrors properly. But in the ideal situation, if you do manage to get your mirrors landed properly, it's basically just it's kind of like a 40-second containment for the survivors if you can land all your mirrors quite perfectly. But it's also quite hard to do that, so we also cannot forget about that in mind as well. For BQ right now, I'm gonna put her still on niche since this is rank, right? Since this is rank, she can still be on niche for now. With the majority of the survivors, yes, there's a lot of them that pulls distance that BQ can't deal with, but as long as BQ can still get a mirror and then a blink hit down, it is still kind of a guarantee tie in that situation too, because even if the survivor wants a body block, a good BQ knows how to sandwich the survivors properly. So then, like, with the mirrors in mind there as well, we could potentially see a, you know, double down situation possibly when it comes to body block, but you can also throw a mirror out just to stop the Cypher Machine from decoding as well. So there's just that little bit of, you know, Cypher Machine control, but it's very below average on that point. BQ's chase is basically just bad if she doesn't have mirrors, but if she does have mirrors, I guess we can just call her chase average. But I guess because of the fact that mirror kind of does overcome walls, if you want to loop a BQ, I don't think you can kite a BQ at all, honestly, on that side, no. So for Bloody Queen on this side, as long as there isn't, you know, batter or forward around, you should be relatively okay. You should be relatively okay against all other harass type survivors. If you're going against chase type survivors, I think it's also okay too, because you can just force the survivors with using their items and then hit them immediately, or you can just use your mirrors to come out, survivors use their items, and then you follow up to hit with that mirror, or just, you know, teleport over immediately, change your positions with the mirror and get that hit. But overall, I guess you have 3 chances to land your mirror before blink is ready, and that's quite a lot of chances for a guaranteed tie, I won't lie, to blink down for a guaranteed tie in that sense as well. So I guess for BQ, maybe I'm saying it a little bit too easily right now, because people may say, hey look, but then, like, what if they rebound kite really well? But, you know, realistically speaking, if you're able to, if survivors are able to dodge 3 mirrors, they probably don't have any items anymore after that. So yeah, there's that side note from my side, honestly. But yeah, BQ is still a part of niche in current day meta in my opinion. Just a little bit below everyone else because of how the meta is now changing to fast chase type hunters and not, like, you know, perfectionist hunters and such and such. Okay, now then, let's talk about Bonbon. Bonbon is kind of hardcore guarantee tie right now. He is still guaranteed tie at the end of the day, and there's quite a few reasons for it. Reason number 1, Bonbon has short legs, Bonbon can't move. So Bonbon's mobility is kind of like Gala's on that side. She basically has barely any chase potential there for a hunter. But of course, Bonbon does have chip potential, which means that his chair camp is exceptionally high. But like, even with the chip potential in mind, if there's a mercenary or first, or like a GK, a Gravekeeper, or even, you know, maybe you could say Orphe could be one of those type of survivors that can counter Bonbon, but that's only if the journalist knows what they're doing, of course. But then, like, even with that on mind, right, let's just be fully honest with yourselves. Even if you get a 20-second down on a guard 26, as long as you know how to sell against a Bonbon, there's nothing a Bonbon can do, right? Because like realistically speaking, survivors should be able to kite 30 seconds and then go down against a Bonbon, even though like 30 seconds in towards the game, Bonbon should only have 3 bombs, or even 3 to 4 bombs. So I don't think Bonbon has that much potential in getting a chip on the survivors, especially when survivors have 3 items as well. But like, towards the worst case scenario, if that really does happen, all what you need to do is to get your rescuer get your rescuer to come over here immediately, and we start selling, we get the cipher machines done, and then we start putting distance against the Bonbon. So then what does this mean? Bonbon can't find a chase, and then the rescuer is already finishing the third cipher machine right now. So what does this mean once again? It simply just means that there's nothing that the Bonbon can do. He does have bombs, yes, but if he can't find any targets, or if the targets start putting distance immediately, his bombs are basically all nullified at the end of the day. And it's still with the fact that like survivors still does have items to contain with, so they can either use the items to pull away from the bombs, or they can basically cancel your bombs by harassing you somehow. I'm not sure how that works. Well, I mean, I know how that works, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. So like for Bonbon, as long as you know how to sell against a Bonbon, it will always be a guaranteed tie. Bonbon has 2 short legs. Even if Bonbon brings Blink and then Teleport, if a Bonbon really does decide to teleport there, at least you know yourself that, okay, the Bonbon teleports, what do we know? There's a pallet nearby for the survivors to take immediately. There's still teleport animation. Survivors can just take the pallet and pull distance away right now, right here, this moment. And for a Bonbon with short legs, can you catch up? No, you can't. It's not that fast anyways, but like even if you can catch up, they still have their items to use to dodge your bombs. So there's really my take on Bonbon there. Chase is very low, but share camp potential is high. It does have a little bit of cipher pressure with the bombs sometimes, but quite counterable, I guess, on that side, though, because Bonbon still has to focus on getting the down there. And unrealistically speaking, if you do really kite 30 seconds, you can still sell against a Bonbon and get that guaranteed tie. I guess it's just really with Bonbon's part, if you really do have a bad early game, you can still kind of bring it back by chair camping, since his chair camp is so good overall. Honestly, I would say better than Gala's, but like, you know, his chair camp is still very good. That can turn from a losing to a tie. Next will be Disciple. I think Disciple is kind of hardcore tie guarantee. As long as you're a good Disciple, you know how to land your cats, you know how to chase, and you know when to cancel their items as well, and you know how to cat jump, right? So then like for a Disciple's point of view, you can actually run any type of persona you want and you still get a tie guarantee. But of course, just make sure to always bring attention on that part. So what do we know about Disciple Anne here? So Disciple Anne has Disciple Anne has average chase to above average chase, since she gets from 1 cat jump to 2 cat leaps once she opens max presence. Disciple Anne also does have above average chair camp potential, but this chair camp potential, in a nutshell, it could be countered by either you play Mercenary, you play Gravekeeper, or you play a Psychologist. Well, potentially speaking, Psychologist also does work, yes, and then Journalist. And then First Officer as well, I guess, just because you can just force yourself to get the stun and immediately get the rescue right afterwards with your pocket watch. So there's also that to note as well. So for Disciple Anne here, I'm just gonna say her chair camp is above average, but then there's so much rescuers that basically counter. So now, I don't think it makes any difference to say that she's an exceptional chair camp potential hunter. But like, even with that on mind, for Disciple Anne here, even if she does have a bad early game, she still does have that chair camp ability potential here to get the tie still, or even just to get the double down still. For Disciple Anne, whenever she paralyzes or bursts her cat, survivor can't use their items anymore. So during this time, if it's in an open area, Anne could potentially just jump and then burst the cats immediately, so survivors can't use their items full distance, which basically guarantees Anne for a normal hit, at least, right? When they're in an open area, not when they're near pedestal, of course. That's a whole different story, but when they're in normal areas, let's say. But overall for Anne, really, still, she's going to remain as the tie queen for us. She is still going to remain as a tie queen for us. Having a jump early game, having able to use your cats to go out as a radar, right, to see where the survivors are hiding, and then jump towards the survivors immediately, and a huge potential to catch up the road towards the survivor and stun them and then get a normal hit. It's pretty nice, honestly, for a hunter to have a fast chase and is able to stun survivors. You're not gonna be able to see, well, I don't think there's that much survivors that actually, not survivors, I don't think there's actually a hunter other, well, there is actually, never mind, there's wax artists, but like for Anne, at least it's easier to get the stun on towards the survivor compared to wax artists. Let's be fully honest with ourselves, right? So then like for Anne, I guess she's very user friendly, she's very beginner friendly as well. Learning cat jumps isn't too hard. It's not a steep learning curve. If you just swipe your you know, finger around the screen, you kind of could get it pretty well. And then chair camping wise, it's not too hard to grasp as well, which is really nice. And then you also have, like, you know, just using the catch jumps for basic catching up towards survivors. That's also a good thing. You can also use the cross to pull your cats a little bit further out, or even just near your survivors, so that you can get that cat on towards the survivors and then get a stun on them. But now, of course, we do know that when the further the cats travel away from the center, the bigger the radius gets, right? But then when you use your cross, it doesn't really expand anymore, so just keep that in mind. But you know what? Anne is still our guaranteed tie queen here. Disciple is still our guaranteed tie queen. Okay, next we'll have Violinist. Violinist is doable without full team VC, I feel. For Violinist, like, we know that Violinist recently got a buff. Violinist strings are basically much more longer now, and you can cancel the strings to pull it off, you know, the length limit. But even with that on mind, Violinist is kind of like a bloody queen, but a bit worse in my opinion. Yes, you could use a string to block a survivor from going in between a pallet or a pallet area, but even with that on mind, it's a bit hard to land it, just because I don't know how the string hitbox works. Sometimes when you throw it down and immediately merges it, and then when a survivor walks past, they get damaged. I don't know how that works, whether that's because of reverb or not. I'm not sure how that works. But like, overall for Vio string, it's not consistent enough compared to BQ's mirrors in that sense. Now, for Violinist, I wouldn't disagree that it's definitely a brilliant nerf for Violinist. And of course, with Violinist, when he brings Exhibitionist alongside with Control Freak, well, alongside with Impulsive, when he basically does a charge attack hit, he gains an 8% movement speed boost for 5 seconds with all hunters. When Violinist uses his Presence 1, in which allows him to reset his attack regardless of how much he wants, and throws Demon Notes out, I think that's quite a nice combo for a little bit of a movement speed boost there. But like with Vio as well, he basically has no chase potential. He does have high chip potentially when it comes to chair camp, but I don't think it's that consistent really. Two reasons. Reason number one being the fact that even if you do manage to get a string onto towards survivors, I feel like they can still get the rescue anyways, just because of the fact that there is a little bit of an animation when you put down the string, so the survivor can just stand next to the chair and immediately get the rescue, unless something odd happens. Maybe I'm wrong on that part, but there's also the fact that there's so many there's so many rescuers out there who can basically counter, you know, Vio in a nutshell. Like, you can have a first officer just pull. You can have a first officer just like ring his watch, and then what can the Violinist do? Play mind games, but good luck with that mind game going on. Journalist, mercenary, maybe a little bit double down potential. GK, I don't know about that part, but you know what I mean. So then, like, there's just, but like, even if GK, like when GK comes out of shovel, he gets chipped. He has a 50% rescue speed buff, so he basically rescues survivor in 0.5 seconds. Violinist basic attack hit animation is 0.43, I'm quite sure. And then like there's also the animation of putting down a string as well, which is still some time. So for Violinist right there, he's doable without a full team VC, but even if you're playing against randoms, in a sense, if the randoms can just pull distance, take window speed boost, take pallet speed boost, or even just flywheel your strings through a pallet or window, TLDR, you kinda the game basically isn't gonna go your way. Now for Violinist, just because he has bad chase doesn't mean he's that much of a bad hunter. He does have chair camp potential as well, but it's not as good as Bonbon, nor Gala, nor Feaster, nor, you know, Mad Eyes in that sense as well. Just because the strings are so short, it's kind of like, you know, I'm not really too sure whether you can land it or not. But like, we don't even need to get in straight towards Violinist max presence as well. You basically all you need to do is just stand in between the gaps with the strings when his when his demon notes come out. So then like, it's kind of like, it's quite counterable. In a sense, if you just stand still, you can counter it, but then like most of us won't be standing still anyways. But then when you're at full health, of course you should stand still, you know, in that sense as well. So I guess for Vio, there's a lot to consider honestly on that part. I would say there's a lot of room for a Violinist to not have a really good early game because of the strings, because of survivors items. But of course you can still potentially get a tie, but your chair camp isn't really that good, honestly. I wouldn't say your chair camp is the best at all in that makes sense as well. So for Violinist, he's going to be doable without full VC team. Of course, he does have a little bit of map pressure / cipher pressure when he throws his demon notes out. Survivor definitely has to dodge it, and if they get 3 stacks, I think they get a reduction of 35% decoding debuff, if I'm not wrong on that part, of course. But then, like, for the survivors, it kind of takes them 10 seconds to pray and get it, and like just to spell it overall. Kind of a little bit similar to Soul Weaver on that section with getting rid of webs, but for Violinist, a little bit inconsistent in my opinion on that part as well. Chase is a bit bad, definitely has chip damage potential, but it's still quite counterable on that sense, whether you bring Middle Speed Boost or Flywheel. Okay, next on the tier list will be Sculptor. I'm gonna put Sculptor on niche here. This could be a little bit of a bias from my side, but let's just talk about Sculptor. Sculptor has no chase, that's an issue. Sculptor does have chip damage potential, which means her chair count is basically above average. It's not better than Bonbon, but it is above average. And she does have a bit of map control / cipher control because of her chisel when she opens phase 1, so at least that's one thing that's a little bit better than Bonbon in that sense. And I guess overall, when you open up Max Presence, it's kind of like a Bonbon Presence 1 with no presence. You can just merge and collide statues. But anyways, why do I think Gala is, well, by technicality, right? By technicality, Sculptor can kind of prevent Cypher Rush in a sense that when you throw a chisel out, they can't decode for 12-13 seconds because they have to get out of the chisel area and then stop decoding. And then you also have a chair count potential as well. So even if they do sell, you can at least disrupt ciphers for, you know, maybe 30-40 seconds, maybe 30-40 seconds, well, maybe 30 seconds max actually, with 2 chisels being thrown out, another, you know, 12-second, 14-second cooldown on a chisel. So maybe 30-second disruption on a cipher machine from one survivor, right? That's not a bad thing. But overall for Gala, I guess, you know, once she starts snowballing, she snowballs really hard. Once she starts feeding her presence, she snowballs really hard, which means she gets even stronger throughout the game. Very similar to Reptilian. Reptilian also snowballs throughout the game as well. But I guess for Gala, not as good as Reptilian, because Gala is, I wouldn't say she's less consistent. Well, I will say she's a bit less consistent than Bonbon when it comes to chips. But I guess with the statues in mind, you can use the statues to, you know, stop survivors from moving for 1 or 2 seconds, or you can use it to try chip them. But overall, what I really would say is it really is just a 50-50 on that side now as well with playing Sculptor. It's really up to you on how well you play. If you do manage to bring Insolence to tension as you reach max presence, and if you manage to get max presence after a second chair, I don't think so. I genuinely don't think you can lose with merged statues as well. But I guess another difference between Gala and Bonbon, Sculptor and Bonbon, really is the fact that when you chip a survivor, it stops them from rescuing. So it stops their rescue animation. They nerfed this about Bonbon a few years ago for new players as well. But I guess for Gala overall, it really is just, you know, whatever you like the most. Whatever you like the most. As an S-Bash Gala, I won't lie about how many times Survivors has, you know, dodged my statues, how statues has never chipped sometimes even though they should chip, how when you put a statue in between the palace it should chip, but it didn't chip and it just pushed the Survivor away. I don't know how that works. I don't know whether that's a bug or not. I don't remember it happening before when she was just released, but you know, it is what it is at this point. But of course, I really wouldn't put Gala above, you know, Reaver Reptilian on that side now as well. It is a little bit of a bias on my side, I won't lie. As a Sculptor main, it is a little bit of a bias on my side, but overall Gala is still niche in my opinion. Against a 4-man team, you can still kind of tie with Insolence Detention, right? You sometimes may not even need Detention, so you can kind of bring Insolence and Trump card for that teleport build, or you can bring Max Control Freak for that chair speed boost. But overall for Gala, no chase potential, so it's really bad. But at least she does have mid map control, average cipher control, and then does have an above average chair camp, at least for that part, let's say. So even if you do have a bad early game, you can kind of bring it back with Chisel and bring it back with your failed rescue there as well. Now the next will be Undead. Undead will be a part of doable without a full team voice comm. So I think we went from too many counters from Undead to doable without a full team VC. Now why is this? 2 reasons. Reason number 1 being the fact that there's more persona traits for Undead to use now. Berserker was one of the OP ones for Undead to use. So you recovered attack recovery 20% faster and max stacks. So that simply kind of means that you can force survivors to self-heal or just heal immediately on that sense as well. Now, when it comes to a 14 VC, survivors can basically just give out the location of the undead, so everyone can just rotate around immediately as well instead of being ambushed for a terror shock hit maybe, or just an early free hit. Which is why, like, for me, Undead definitely move up the tier list because of the Persona trait remake for Undead. They added a little bit more for Undead, and it's also with the fact that when you're playing with randoms or not with a team, Undead has an exceptional high chase, very high chase. He basically has 5 dashes early game, which allows him to be nullified by, you know, stuns with 50 energy stacks, right? So he can basically break pallets with a basic hit. He can also prevent stuns from happening to him at all times. And also when he reaches 50 energy, he can dash, and he jumps up, he can pass through any low level obstacles and get a hit on towards the survivor if he wants to do so, right? But then, like, I guess once again, the reason he really moved up is because of the personas trait switches. You can now have so many more personas to play around different type of survivors or different type of team comps with that sense as well. But I guess overall for Undead, as long as it's the randoms, as long as you're not playing against a 4-man team, you would win. You would like tie bare minimum most of the time. Now Cypher Rush is still a thing, I don't disagree, which is why he's not higher than this. But then I guess for Undead this season, they have been treated a little bit better, thankfully, with the persona trees and stuff like that. And I guess it's also with the fact that current day meta is about is about, you know, distance pulling survivors like Patient or Reptilian, etc. So for Undead, he can definitely come out quite handy here. But once again, it's doable without a full team VC, but we did move him up from a tier. Now, with that also in mind, his tier 2 is kind of an AoE thing. It's very situational depending on where you can use it, but most of the time, or unless you are a veteran Undead, it'd be very hard for you to land those as well, which is an issue too, in my opinion. But I guess at the end of the day, you know, not dealing with rescuers, not dealing with harassers, and just focus on full chase is a good thing. He's not any higher because he focuses way too much on fast downs. If you get someone down in 30 seconds, but you can't get another survivor down in the next 60 seconds, TLDR, you're going to get Cypher Rush so fast to the point that you actually don't realize it. And you also still have to go back to the survivor you just downed, even if you do get that 8-second wanted order time. It's kind of like, if you kind of lose track of the survivor, you lose track very fast. They get healed, you still need to hit down them. So that's a small issue there on for Undead, but I guess he's being, you know, just a bit better compared to usual, but still pretty nice. So Undead will be a part of doable without full team VC. Now the next on the tier list will be Breaking Wheel. Breaking Wheel will be a part of niche. I know some people will put him very low because of how easy it is to counter him. But I guess at the end of the day, just please listen to my explanation. So for me personally right now, Breaking Wheel, you can at least still get one, you can still at least get like one spike. And then change the human form, try get a trap on towards the survivors. If you can't get a trap on towards them, you change to wheel form again, get a second spike, and then immediately blink down a survivor. So that's still a 60-second elimination progress time, to be honest with you. That's what I personally think. Now, am I gonna debate about it's really easy to counter wheel? I'm not, because it is pretty easy to counter wheel in open areas. But like, in certain situations, in certain situations, Wheel could shine out quite a bit, and you could potentially say I'm putting Wheel in niche because of Saw Him from GG. His Wheel is tremendously well done, again, especially like after so long, everyone knowing how to counter Wheel. His Wheel is still one of the best of the best. But like, I guess at the end of the day, what we could say is if you can get 2 spikes blink down, it's always a guaranteed tie for Wheel. That's what we will say. And even if your game is a little bit bad, you can kind of go out and harass the ciphers and get it down and get blink downs and start slugging from mid to end game. So then like, there's a huge possibility you can still tie the game in that sense as well. Especially with the fact that you're not gonna always go against a 4-man VC team, and you know, you're a Wheel player. Yes, the controls are a little bit wonky, but you know, once you get used to it, it is pretty easy to handle Wheel on that sense as well. Now, for most Wheels, what they would do is they get 1 spike, throw trap, get a hit, and then they'll open phase 1, change Wheel form, get a spike, and snap them down. So then they can save blink just in case something happens. And a lot of Wheels do bring Insolence Detention now, or even Insolence Trump card, Insolence. Anything that pairs up with Insolence works really well with Wheel, honestly. So then like for Wheel, what do we know? Wheel has exceptionally high chase, which means that he has exceptionally high map control. He may not have any cipher control, but at least his chair camp is a bit average, I would say. If you can get 2 spikes on towards the rescuer before they make it on towards chair, which is possible for wheel, it's a failed rescue. If you can get 1 spike on towards the rescuer, but then like you place 2 traps down, which stuns them for 6 seconds, and the survivor goes after half, that's also a really good momentum there for you as a breaking wheel. But overall, I guess for breaking wheels, even if you do have a bad early game, you can kind of bring it back mid to late game as long as you can get the spikes on, get the traps, and get the hit down, is what I would like to say. Now, most people would say flywheel is an issue. I wouldn't disagree that flywheel isn't an issue, but because flywheel exists, right? Because flywheel exists, you could potentially, like, they could potentially flywheel your first trap, but can they flywheel your blink after that? Maybe not. Maybe not. So there's really a lot to think as well. And then, like, even if you do only get 1 spike and your blink is ready, you can blink hit the survivors, immediately change the wheel form, and then get another spike and then snap down, and that'll be an 80-second down on towards the survivor side. Does that seem like it's a very good containment? Yeah, it is a good containment, but it's still quite tieable for a breaking wheel like you, because against a breaking wheel, I would say rebound kite potential is quite low on that sense as well. It is really still quite low on that sense as well, which is why like breaking wheel is still kind of niche to me. High chase, high map control, high target change potential, a average enough camp, so I would say it's a good enough camp, and basically no cipher control, which is fine, I guess, just because you can't really have anything on a hunter at the end of the day, or else that would be too OP. Okay, let's move on next. Next will be Naiad. I'm gonna put Naiad in tie guarantee as well. There's quite a few reasons for it. She's dropped for me from niche to tie guarantee, and there's kind of a few reasons. Reason number 1 being the fact that currently meta, it is all about transitional kiting survivors or just soul kiting survivors. So what do you have? You have an aeroplanist, do you have a patient, do you have acrobat, cheerleader, forward, antiquarian, entomologist. I mean, Seer is considered as one of them. You could potentially say psychologist is also another one. Novelist is honestly annoying as well. Little girl can also counter the Naiad, and you could have a potential soft counters like batter. Well, batter is kind of hard counter, but you could have soft counters like you know, coordinator sometimes, maybe even a journalist sometimes, and puppeteer. So in a nutshell, what I will say is Naiad has dropped down from niche to tie guarantee simply because of those reasons. If we compare Naiad to BQ, I'd say there's more chance of Bloody Queen landing a mirror compared to Naiad bursting a survivor. It's also with the fact that like flywheel's annoying, and then Windows speed booster are annoying. So like whatever kit a survivor has, playing Naiad against that type of team comp is a little bit hard compared to the usual. But now, why is Naiad still tie guarantee? It's because of her chair camp potential. Naiad, even if you do have a bad early game, there is still a chance that you could get a terror shock because of how fast she hits, or you could potentially get a 100% you know, moisture burst and then get the hit down on towards the survivor immediately for a failed rescue. So in that case, you can still kind of tie guarantee in that sense. Even if you're against a 4-man VC, you still do have a little bit of that, you know, extra kit you can use to at least guarantee the tie. Now, what else do we have to say about Naiad? So we know Naiad's chase, so let's talk about Naiad's chase. Naiad's chase is, you know, above, well, let's just say Naiad's chase is from average to above average. I wouldn't say Naiad's chase is exceptional, simply because of the fact that if you want to wait for moisture dashes, it takes way too long in a sense. If you compare it to Geisha, if you compare it to Violetta, if you compare it to Lizard, it's a little bit slow compared to the other two when it comes to dash regen. Now, on that side note, Naiad's movement speed boost is also kind of limited to a sense that you want to use your harpoon to make an abyss, to make a puddle, just so you can either burst the survivors or get some puddle on towards the survivors. But even in that case scenario as well, you know, there's a lot of times when you throw your harpoon and if the survivor just runs the other way, that's kind of a harpoon gone. So like, you could potentially think about this as, you know, 3 survivors. No, sorry, 1 survivor, like 3 harpoons is basically maybe 2 items and 1 Windows speed boost. You know, you're not even forcing survivors to use all of their item. And even in that case as well, like there's still pallet survivor can spam them, there's still a lot of other things survivors can do. But then I guess she does have a little bit of a cipher control if you decide to lock the ciphers while chair camp, or if you decide to lock the ciphers while you are chasing someone. But in that sense, you're kind of throwing away your chase for the cipher lock, which in a sense, okay, it does make sense because you want a cipher machines to be a little bit slower, but at the end of the day, how fast can you actually get this other survivor down? You're not too sure yourself. But most of the time for Naiad Mings, they should be able to get a hit and immediate blink down. That's one thing for sure. And then from then on onwards, it's kind of like, you know, current day rescuers, you have way too many rescuers who can double tank, who can basically tank 2 hits. Puppeteer is definitely one of them, who recently just came out. But then I guess, you know, chase from average to above average. Chair camp is kind of, chair camp goes from average to above average, but then like late game chair camp doesn't matter much if they have a good early game. That's also an issue there too for you, you know. So then like and then there's so many rescuers out there as well who Naiad has to ban in order for, you know, Naiad to get the chair cam. Because like if you think about this properly, right, there's a mercenary who counters it, there's journalist who counters it, there's puppeteer who counters it, there's aeroplanist who counters it, there's toy merchant who counters it, there's patient who counters it if you fly on air, there is quite a bit, honestly, quite a bit. Wilding could be one of them, and you know, there's just a bit too much, I'd say, on the fact for Naiad. So like for Naiad current tier, she's a part of tie guaranteed because of how strong lately the survivors have been coming out with their solo containment. All survivors currently have really strong solo containment, the recent ones that has been coming out, of course. Now then, next on the list will be Wax Artist. We'll put Wax Artist maybe just below Evil Reptilian here. No, actually, I'd probably put Wax Artist somewhere around here in this sense. Right, so this is what niche should look like. In a sense, right, Wax Artist is a slow-moving hunter, but a lot of survivors, not survivors, sorry, a lot of hunters now really do decide to bring inks. Well, you can run any, you know, personal choice on Wax Artist, but again, at the end of the day, like, if there are, you know, fast movement type survivors, they still do counter Wax Artist quite a bit when it comes to early game. Now, for a lot of Wax Artists now, they do decide to bring Insolence Detention, in which you're able to, you know, get your max presence, hot wax in a double down situation. But what's really good about Wax Artist is the fact that he can lock pallets / windows, he can get 90 wax on towards the survivors, blink hit them, and then immediately follow up with other wax. It's kind of like where instant detention comes from. You're gonna get 90% wax, or even just 80 wax on the survivors, blink hit the survivors, and then put blob wax out, and then the survivors are it's basically like a 60-second containment for the survivors anyways. So there's a lot of, you know, room here for Wax Artists to play around. Typically for Wax Artists, you do want to bring fast pallet breaking as well, but like on Wax Artist's side, his chase isn't the best. His chase is below average. It's not the worst because he does have wax to stun the survivors, and he can also block certain, you know, pallets, windows, and cipher machines. But like with the cipher machine block as well, that's kind of where his cipher control is coming from. I would say his cipher control is pretty average. You can lock one cipher machine at least, and maybe another one if you chair near another survivor. But then on that side note as well, map control is a little bit low from Wax Artist's side. Since Wax Artist can't really rotate around the map fast enough, his map control is pretty bad. Let's just say that he has no map control at all, right? But at least for his chair camp, whether or not he opens max presence or not, sometimes if you come in late to rescue, Wax Artist can stun you for 3 seconds, and then survivors may go over half, a little bit similar to Breaking Wheel. Or when, you know, Wax Artist is at max presence, they'll basically 100% wax you first, and then they will hot wax you, get a double hit down immediately. So that's kind of where Wax Artist chair camp is coming from. Yes, this is only possible when you are at max presence, but if we're gonna talk about, like, you know, what Wax Artists have compared to, you know, everyone in tie guarantee, the first thing is definitely double hit potential, and the second thing is definitely just cipher control in a nutshell. So Wax Artist will still be a part of niche. He does have a little bit of a slow movement speed, but overall he does have kind of everything else except for that movement speed in his kit, and he does counter harassers to a certain extent as well. Maybe not long range harassers, but harassers overall. Okay, next on tier list, let's move on to Nightmare. Nightmare is gonna be a part of too many counters. Nightmare did receive a buff, but it doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, it doesn't work. Sorry, but it really doesn't work out for a Nightmare. There's a few reasons, so let's talk about Nightmare's chase. Nightmare basically has a 10% movement speed boost bonus when he isn't chasing any after survivors, which is why you see a lot of Nightmares facing down looking at trails instead of looking at the survivors when they're trying to chase after them. It's simply just have that 10% movement speed boost just to catch up. Poaching, it's the skill effect. But there's a few issues. Issue number one being the fact that yes, he can break pallets faster now, but that doesn't mean survivors can't loop him near a one window area or even just a one long pallet area. You can at least loop a Nightmare there for like once or twice around that one pallet area, drop down a pallet and then use your item, rotate somewhere else, or even don't use your item, just drop down a pallet and then vault over the pallet if you have enough distance. So that's issue number one. Issue number two is the fact that for Nightmare, because of the fact that he doesn't have early game chase, his early game chase is kind of bad as well. Yes, he has poaching to catch up, but you have to look at the survivors in order for you to be able to target lock on towards them, right? So what does this mean? This means that you need to waste at least 5 seconds, if I'm not wrong, to lock on towards the survivor, and the survivor decides to tie kite you. Issue number one being the fact that you're not going to be able to get the homing missile hit anyways, the target hit anyways, simply because of the fact that it's going to get obstructed by walls. That's issue number one. Issue number two being the fact that even if survivors run in an open area, you're not going to be using your basic hit to catch up towards the survivor because the animation effect is just not worth it. So basically, when a survivor is in open area and you dash straight towards them, there is a attack recovery animation. It is a little bit long. Yes, you may be able to save like 1 second of walking during that time, but you might as well look down and try activate your poaching to get that 10% movement speed boost instead of looking at the survivors trying to catch up to them when they make so much distance after all. So that's kind of another one of the issues with Nightmare. So you could, in theory, well, you could practically speaking tie kite for a long time, or kite in an open area and then tie kite for a long time. That's kind of just the issue with Nightmare. Now, a lot of Nightmare's main do bring trump card detention, blink early game for the teleport late game for map control, but I guess the biggest issue is for Nightmare, if you want to play map control, it's not worth it unless you have a really good early game. So for example, if you get someone down in 30 seconds and then they decide to sell, you could try map controlling then, but even in that case scenario, it doesn't mean you get your second survivor down ASAP. Why? It's because you're still presence 1 Nightmare. When you yeah, it is because you're still presence 1 Nightmare. You only get double dashes when you're presence 2. Presence 1 allows you to teleport towards a survivor when the crow is out. Now we'll talk about crow later, but when you throw a crow out, it can lock a it can stay on a cipher machine, in which it decreases survivors' interaction speed by 10%. That includes vaulting windows, pallets, and decoding cipher machines. It all gets decreased by 10%. But of course, this is considered as a very mini cipher control. You could say it's a below average cipher control, but even with that in mind, as a Nightmare main, even if you do get someone down in 30 seconds, right, and then the survivors decide to sell, by the time the survivor manages to sell, there's 2.5 ciphers remaining. On average, usually there will be only 2 ciphers remaining, but let's just say on average there's only 2.5 ciphers remaining because no one was decoding early game and they were all rotating. Okay, so we have that in mind. What is the issue? The issue now is you're a presence 1 Nightmare. You only have a single dash and teleport. You don't have double dash to catch up towards the survivor. So even if you do teleport with crow or with your trace, it's not going to matter much, because all what survivors has to do is to either use their items to throw themselves towards the next kiting area, or just react on time and put down a pallet, vault over a pallet, and then pull distance away from the cipher that they were decoding at, and by bare minimum they would be able to contain you for like at least 60 seconds if you still have blink remaining, right? If you still do have blink, they'll continue for at least 60 seconds. But if you don't have blink, which is the issue, because it's not like you're gonna get anyone down in 30 seconds as a nightmare. That's very rare. That's like maybe 5%, maybe 5 times out of 200 games you'll get that type of scenario. So then, like, for nightmare in that sense, your chase goes from below average to exceptionally high. But even with that in mind, your map control is every 50 seconds you get to teleport. So your map control is probably pretty average on that sense as well. Your Cypher control is very below average and you have no chair camp. But the issue with Nightmare really is the early game. That's really annoying. Even if you do get someone down in 60 seconds with blink, and you teleport out immediately with Crow deciding not to chair camp, there are 2 issues. Issue number 1 being the fact that the rescuer can always come rescue and then heal the survivor. Issue number 2 being the fact that once you teleport towards the next survivor, realistically speaking, how long are you going to get them down without blink? You're a presence 1 nightmare, you're a presence 1 nightmare main. You have teleport, you teleport out, what else do you have now? You have nothing left except for basically presence 0. You basically have just a single dash and survivor has 3 items. So survivor always have the upper hand against a nightmare main. So then, like, for nightmare, unless you have some type of godly really good early game, or the survivors really screw up mid to late game because they decide not to heal after getting rescued, then I guess you have quite a huge chance of winning. But Nightmare is still going to be a part of the too many counters tier, simply because of the fact that even randoms can counter him quite easily. Like, even newbies know how to counter him honestly. So then, like, for Nightmare, it's really, I still don't understand people who enjoy playing Nightmare. I view you all as a bunch of masochists, but jokes aside, right? And that's a joke. But jokes aside, people play Nightmare because they enjoy playing him, not because they want to climb tiers. That's what I think too many counters really is about. But yeah, that's that for Nightmare. And then next on the tier list we'll be having Clerk. Clerk will be going towards Opera Party. Now, I have seen quite a bit of different opinions on Clerk, but my opinion on Clerk currently really is just the fact that this is still a ranked tier list at the end of the day. Clerk doesn't have any chase, but she excels at everything else that's Cypher Rush based. So Clerk has minimal chase, so below average chase. Clerk has a very good Cypher control, and Clerk also has a very good well, I wouldn't say she's any map control because she doesn't have any chase, but like, I guess her Cypher control does consider a little bit as a map control. But then, like, honestly, for Clerk, it's just because of the fact that she can record survivors decoding Cypher machines, and the fact that she can, you know, prevent herself from breaking pallets, or just record herself from breaking pallets window to obstruct survivors' movements and vaulting over obstacles. It's what makes her strong. Clerk is also a part of Opera Party simply because of the fact that we're not seeing so much harassers anymore. 2 seasons or 3 seasons ago, harasser was the basic, you know, meta type team comp. The harasser team comp was very meta, which is why Clerk couldn't really operate well against these type of team comps. But nowadays, after you've seen the Prospector nerf, after you've seen the Enchantress nerf, after you've seen the who else got nerfed, I can't remember, but like, a lot of the harassers did get nerfed. Maybe just not anti-Korean, because anti-Korean will remain on the top regardless. But like, with that in mind, since the main harassers are gone, you're not going to be seeing Enchantress as much in rank. You're also not going to be able to see Batter as much in rank. Well, Batter didn't get nerfed, but his decoding speed is too slow and randoms are too unpredictable in that sense, which is why not a lot of people play him. And forward has also been reduced a bit in rank as well because of Mischievous. You could counter forward using Clerk by recording your own hit and then dropping the hit right in front of you and pick up the survivors with Mischievous. Even if forward does come in, you can drop the survivor down, or your scroll hit will cancel the bot animation, TLDR. That's how you counter forward as Clerk. Now, it's not the best way to do it. Of course, you need to bring Mischievous, but like, aside from forward, a lot of the harassers now really have slow decoding speed. Right, so then, like, for Clerk, what's good about Clerk is it's not about getting blinked down, meaning you'll win against a Clerk. When it comes to Clerk, if you get it blinked down by technicality, it's a tie game to a win game guarantee for you. unless something happens in the game and you mess up really bad, right? Because like for Clerk, what's very important is the fact that when you get a survivor down with blink, there's almost 2.5 cipher machine done. Well, probably your rescuer cipher machine will be at 50%, and all the other 2 survivors will be at 70%. Once you get a survivor down, you can look towards the cipher machine that is shaking, lock the cipher machine immediately, and now what happens is there's only 1 survivor decoding the cipher machine instead of 2. The rescuer has to come to rescue, and whoever was recorded cannot decode anymore, so there only leaves with 1 survivor out there remaining that has to decode. Now, because of this, Clerk can reduce decoding speed by a significant amount, and it's also with the fact that when a survivor is on the chair, even if survivor decides to cipher rush, they really won't be able to rush you well. There's a few reasons. For reason number 1 being the fact that you're just gonna continuously, your cipher machine is just gonna be continuously locked, and then reason number 2 being the fact that if you really do decide to sell, Clerk can always just go out and start harassing another cipher machine. So she can harass 2 ciphers at the same time if she sees that there's all 3 cipher machines currently being decoded. Now, I guess the only issue about Clerk right now is just body blocking. But in a sense, what matters for Clerk the most is as long as you can get 1 survivor eliminated and there's still 2 cipher machines remaining, in a sense, that's kind of a tie win game guaranteed for you, because by the time that you get the next survivor down, there's 1 cipher machine remaining, there has to be 1 rescuer coming to rescue, and there has to be 1 survivor decoding because there's another survivor on chair. So that means you can lock ciphers unlimitedly. Right, so for survivors in this sense, they need to start body blocking when there's all 4 survivors left on the field. That's the only good way for body blocking against the Clerk. Now, at the same time, since we're body blocking so early anyways, that means our decoding speed is relatively slow, and that also means that for a Clerk, she can lock a cipher machine while chasing after survivors she wants to chase after. She can hit the survivors that is trying to body block, get them to either half health or get them down. But then like during this time as well, since we know that most Clerks use their blink early anyways, and there's little to no harassers left in the current day meta, what would happen is you would want to lock the cipher machine until your blink is ready. And when the survivor decides to body block, that means they've been rescued for the 2nd time. That's when the survivor actually comes into body block, right? So okay, they've been rescued for the 2nd time. You hit them during tie turner time, that's no problem at all. If they really do decide to body block, you can lock a cipher machine while you chase after them, hit them, break the pallet, etc, etc. Their cipher machine decoding speed is significantly reduced once again because there's 1 survivor body blocking, 1 survivor decoding, and 1 survivor cipher machine being locked, and another survivors that has currently been chased as well. But of course, all in all, it does depend on how good you are and how proficient you are with Clerk. Most Clerks or some Clerks are able to immediately lock a pallet window cipher. But of course, when you do have green pin as a Clerk, survivors can't really counter your cipher lock, because it's just too fast when you have green pin. Green pin versus green pin, Clerk will always have the upper hand. When survivors did manage to dodge your cipher lock, it's because they managed to predict you. So then like in higher tiers, a lot of survivors do decide to not decode during that time as well. They decode a little bit and then continue to decode for like a second afterwards, and it's like an on-off relationship with the survivors and the cipher machines at that point. But then like, I guess along with Clerk, it's just pretty nice in current day meta since they're not that much harassers anymore, and it's all about like solo containment, like lawyer, female dancer. Anti-current could consider as a harasser, but like you could stun, but like anti-current's harass is kind of like, okay, she pushes back and she stuns for 1 second, but it's not too much of a hassle, I guess, in a sense, unless you chase after anti-current, then that's an issue. But like, if anti-current comes harass, it's not too much of a big issue if you do record yourself doing a basic hit and try force anti-current out of the way, in a sense. But yeah, Clerk will just be a part of Opera Party regardless. It's really just because of her high cipher control and the fact that she can force open cipher machine, she can record herself doing basic hits to chip the Merc. So Merc gets 3/4 health, Merc can't come into rescue anymore, they need someone else to come into rescue, and all that aside. But like, if we're gonna talk about harass type, like Prospector harass isn't gonna matter much in a sense because it has been nerfed. When Prospector harasses near a survivor, the stun duration gets reduced by 50%, and then like he has a 6-second cooldown as well on the magnet. So then like, you know, I don't think Prospector is gonna be a big issue in current day meta survivor wise. Unless you see a forward batter in the team comp, which is quite rare sometimes, then don't run Clerk. But like aside from all that, you can definitely run Clerk. But like you know, it's really just the same as Dream Witch. Dream Witch is part of Opera Party as well. But like Dream Witch gets countered by Acrobat, Dream Witch gets countered by Prospector. But then like, you know, people still play Dream Witch anyway since it's rank. So then like, you know, there's always gonna be there's always gonna be different characters that counters a certain hunter, and there's always gonna be a hunter that counters different characters. But yeah, Clerk would still be a part of Opera Party for me. I did see some people put Clerk on A tier, niche tier, but for me she's pretty strong in current day meta. Now then, Hermit is gonna be a part of niche, so maybe around here for me. Now, why is Hermit a part of niche? Hermit, in a sense, there's quite a lot of ways to play Hermit. You can play the trump card detention build, or you can play instance detention build, or if you want to go for a little bit of a faster chase, you could go confined space detention build. Now for Hermit overall, because of the fact that Hermit can connect Cypher machines early game, that kind of gives him a lot of leeway to play around with, you know, Cypher control. So Hermit Cypher control is really strong early game, and in late game as well when it comes to, you know, exit gate connections. Now, why is Hermit in niche? It's kind of the reasons a little bit similar to Clerk, that you're not always going to go against a 4-man team, and there's quite a lot of different plays for Hermit. For Hermit himself, Hermit can connect the Cypher machines early game and do chip damage all the way, especially doing chip damage against randoms. If randoms don't decide to heal, if the survivors don't decide to heal, then they can't actually come into rescue anymore. So then like if you decide to keep prioritizing on chip damage, it kind of suits you as well in that sense, because if the survivors does not decide to heal, since they're so far away from each other, maybe in big maps, then like in that case scenario, you could say, okay, the survivors aren't going to heal, this is going to be a tight guarantee for me, they're trying to rush the Cypher machines. That's one option. Second option is you decide that you don't want to actually, you actually don't want to, like, you know, you actually don't want to, how do I say this? You actually don't want to connect the Cypher machines, and you want to get the first 2 miracle orbs on towards the survivors, or even 2 miracle orbs on towards the survivors, stun them, hit them once, and then blink them down, and then immediately connect the Cypher machines. In that case scenario as well, it's also still a tie guarantee. Now, the only bad thing about Hermit is it's really just that survivors can help each other prolong the kite. So, for example, when Hermit gets someone in chair and the rescuer rescues, Hermit puts a red polarity on the survivor can at least tank 2 hits before the survivor on Titaner goes down. But the good thing about this is that even if the good thing about it's kind of like a double-edged sword, right? Because there's a chance that survivor is going to be able to rebound kite, but there's also another chance that survivor isn't going to be able to do so, and the survivor is going to give you a lot of free hits and deal extra chip damage towards the survivors on the map while during tide turner time. So it's kind of a double-edged sword on that part. It depends on the Hermit, but usually, or most of the time, when you do manage to get a survivor down, they wouldn't really have an item, or they would just have one item left before they start rebound containing. In this case scenario as well, if you want to prevent a rebound kite from happening, you could just disconnect the Cypher machines first, hit the rescuer who's coming in to rescue, and then put 2 polarity orbs on the survivor that you want to get down, hit them down immediately, and then reconnect the Cypher machines. In a sense, that also could work as well, which is why like Hermit does have quite kind of a lot of leeways to play around in when it comes to Hermit's playstyle. Now, for Hermit himself as well, his chase is from below average to above average as the game goes by. From early game to late game, it's from below average to above average. He does have miracle orbs to stun the survivor, which is why his chase is below average, but it goes to above average because of his teleportation skill, when he puts his orb up into the sky and then teleports immediately towards the next area. Now, of course, Hermit can teleport even further away if he's near 2-story setting. A little bit different to Geisha. Geisha can't do it in 2-story settings, but Hermit is going to be able to do so. So then, like, for Hermit's side, he still does have that bit of a chase to catch up towards the next nearby survivors, you know, in that sense as well. Now for his cipher control is really strong. You could say his cipher control is always going to be above average. It doesn't go from above average to exceptional, because, you know, in a sense, like if Hermit gets a very late down, the cipher machine could be, you know, 50% remaining. But in that case scenario as well, Hermit can still be able to connect the exit gates and force the exit gate to open even slower. If you claustrophobia alongside with connecting the exit gate opens really slow. So then, like for Hermit, he's gonna be able to get a survivor down immediately and then teleport towards the next exit gate and to get the guarantee tie. So like for Hermit's playstyle, there's a lot of ways to play Hermit, which is why Hermit is in niche. Now against the 4-man team, this will maybe be a little bit harder to do, but in higher tiers, Dragon and Hydra, you're never going to meet 4-man teams. You're only going to meet 2-man teams at best. So then, like, there's still limited communication on that side as well towards the survivors. But I guess at the end of the day, Hermit does allow you to get a survivor down a little bit slower because of his map control. But if you get the survivors down a little bit too slow, that cyber control may become a double-edged sword for Hermit. So usually for Hermit in this case scenario as well, right, his main counters are Doctor, Psychologist, Enchantress, people who can tank hits, and Seer also. But then overall for Hermit, you're rarely gonna see those type of survival. Well, you're gonna see Psychologist for sure, but like you're not gonna see Doctor, you know, you're not gonna see Doctor in rank. So like for Hermit overall, still a part of niche. Maybe if it's in tourney, I will put him in around the very low end of tie guarantee. But for now in tourney, still pretty niche. And next on the tier list will be Night Watch. Night Watch should be Night Watch is quite high on this tier list of niche. Night Watch is high to a few reasons. Reason number one, very easy to play, very easy to learn, and very kind of non-counterable in a way. And then reason number two is really just the fact that he has chase, he can slow survivors, he has really good chase early game, he can slow survivors down, and he can give himself movement speed boost, and then throughout the game it gets even better. He can get Typhoon to pull the survivor back towards him, or even dash towards the survivor in that scenario as well. Body blocking against Night Watch is going to be a little bit hard, especially when there's Tempest or Typhoon. When Night Watch activates either of those, survivor moves slower, or survivor gets pulled back. So then there's going to be like a second or two where survivors cannot basically move during that pullback animation. A few other things is really just the fact that like Night Watch is really tie guarantee, in a sense that if you're able to get a blink down, it's always going to be tieable, because rebound kite potentially against a Night Watch is quite low. Reason being the fact that if you pull distance, Night Watch can dash towards you. If you tie kite, Night Watch can use his movement speed boost to jump over pallets and follow up with a hit immediately on towards you. And he has quite a fast attack recovery speed boost as well on that side note. So he does have quite a huge potential on double hitting a rescuer when they do come into rescue in that sense as well. Now for a Night Watch, area selection mode aside, he's going to be able to find a survivor immediately that he wants to chase. He's going to be able to slow down that survivor, and even if a survivor does use items, Night Watch can always catch up pretty fast as well in that sense. And because of the fact that Night Watch can catch up pretty fast, his chase is from average to above average. His map control is from no map control to average because of his dashes. And I think it's also just with the fact that if Night Watch is able to hit a survivor away from the chair, he can dash back immediately, Typhoon, and stop the survivors from rescuing. Now you could say that this is possible to do with all other hunter in this tier list, in which I would say yes, but like for Night Watch it's a bit easier to do. You have Typhoon, you have dashes, and then you use Tempest as well for the slow movement speed boost as well, and you have quite a fast attack animation, and you have quite a long and then you have quite a, how do I say this, and then you have quite a weird hitbox on Night Watch. Sometimes Night Watch hitbox is brilliant, sometimes it's just really odd, like really weird, why you wonder why some things don't hit. But like when playing night games with a Night Watch, stack a movement speed boost, and you can either walk across the pallet, in which if they don't react on time, they'll basically miss your pallet stun, or you can move in, move back, get a hit on towards the survivor. It's just really that movement speed boost from the Night Watch's side, which allows them to play so much mind games in that sense as well. right? But then like I guess overall for Nightwatch, he is still pretty niche for me. Everyone can learn to play him and everyone can do pretty well with him. If you want to Taikite a Nightwatch, you need to drop down 2 pallets or near 2 pallets on one window, in which it forces the Nightwatch to either break the pallet or bring confined space to lock the window and then catch up towards you immediately. But then like even if you decide to pull items to pull away from the Nightwatch is always going to be able to get that movement speed boost with those stacks, or even to slow you down. Like he can stack his movement speed boost, use Tempest to slow you down, or he can just dash towards you and then use Tempest to slow you down. So then like there's a lot of, you know, room for a Nightwatch to play around here as well. And like it's not like you could Cypher Rush a Nightwatch, yes, but like with Nightwatch's kit you can at least guarantee it down pretty fast whether you have blink or not in that scenario as well. If you have blink, you can always guarantee a 60-second down. If you bring Instant Detention, you can always guarantee a 60-second down, that's for sure. If you bring Trump Card Detention, you're probably looking for a high map control late game. But then like late game wise for survivors, Nightwatch is pretty strong because he can have 4 stacks of energy, he can dash 4 times, or even he can move and speed boost 4 times. He dashes towards you, he slows you down, he hits you down, he chair you, and he teleports away immediately. There's quite a lot of different, well, not different ways to play Nightwatch, but Nightwatch is very flexible in this sense as well. So what does Nightwatch has? Nightwatch does have from average chase to above average chase. Nightwatch's chair camp is okay, it's a bit below average because sometimes you can force survivors to go after half if you typhoon them away from chair and start body blocking. And his map control is is from nothing to above average, and then nothing to average, let's say, and then he doesn't really have any cipher control because that's not a part of his kit. His kit is a little bit about, you know, slowing survivors down, stopping survivors from body blocking, dashing, movement speed boosting, and then vaulting vaulting faster. So yeah, Nightwatch is still going to be a part of niche in current day meta. Now then, we're gonna have Opera Singer. Opera Singer is gonna be a part of Opera Party. You know by the name. I will explain. Well, I mean, I don't even think I need to explain, but since it's a tier list, why not? Opera Singer has received a nerf, but even with this nerf aside, she is still pretty strong as a hunter. She's able to dash around the map really fast, so she has quite a high map control. She doesn't have any cipher control, but her chase is exceptionally good. She can dash towards her shadow realms in order to catch up towards you immediately and gain, I think, a 40% movement speed boost or 50% movement speed boost, in which it decays over time. It decays over after 1 second, right? But then, like, with a good Opera Singer, Taikite against Opera Singer is hard. 2 reasons. Reason number 1 being the fact that when Opera Singer is no presence, she can dash and she can teleport towards where she left her shadows. So then, like, Taikiting against an Opera Singer, it's kind of like saying you vault over a pallet, Opera Singer teleports, and if you get a terror shock, a little bit unfortunate since you slow vaulted, right? But then, like, most of the time you probably won't be able to get a terror shock, but you'll get a hit anyways. And then, like, what can you do after that? You need to pull distance against Opera Singer, but Opera Singer can catch up towards you immediately. So then, like, current day metas aside, being able to pull distance is really good against an Opera Singer, but Opera Singer is still going to be able to catch up towards you. In tourneys, you see a lot of survivor playing the very old survivors with the veteran trait. That's because they want to get as much movement speed boost as possible to rotate towards the next containment area. So then, like, they can either use that containment area to contain a little bit longer by spamming pallets, or just away from the survivors where they're decoding, right? But then, like, in rank, you're not going to be seeing anyone play Gardener. Realistically speaking, you're not going to see a lot of Gardeners in rank. Realistically speaking, you're not going to see a lot of lucky guys in rank. Realistically speaking, Lawyer's always going to be in rank, sadly. But like for Opera Singer, like with no presence, she's quite a lot in her kit. She's high potential chase. She has TP available, even though it's not a global TP, but then like it's still good enough against tie kiting, right? So now you cannot tie kite against an Opera Singer. You also can't pull distance against an Opera Singer. You could do both, but it comes with risks, let's say. The only play against Opera Singer is to pallet stun her, but then pallet stun against Opera Singer is hard as well. Just like how we talked about Nightwatch with the movement speed boost after he puts an energy charge on. Opera Singer can just dash into Shadow Realm and then do a basic hit and then to get out of Shadow Realm, and then the Shadow Leap is ready once again. It basically just refreshes cooldown. I think that's another strong part for Opera Singer. It's just that she's no cooldown. If you fail a Shadow Leap, you can teleport back immediately towards your Shadow Realm, and then the Shadow Leap basically refreshes immediately. So it's kind of like battering in a sense, but You know, it's kind of like battering in a sense if you think about it. Batter throws a ball out, does enrage, and batter can use the ball again. Right? It's kind of like that. But like overall for Opera Singer, she is going to be able to get it down relatively fast, regardless of whether you have items or not to pull distance. Opera Singer is going to be able to catch up towards you anyway. So then, like, by the time Opera Singer gets you on chair, it's either that you have 3 full items or you have no items. But Opera Singer is still going to be able to get you on chair within 60 seconds anyways. So then, like, on that side note, you're gonna have to think how to rush Opera Singer. But then, like, a little bit similar to Opera Singer, a little bit similar when we were talking about Naiad. Naiad is able to go out to like hit survivors and slow survivors, then dash back towards the chair. Opera Singer can do the same thing. Dash out, seize the survivor, hit them, and teleport back. And what can they do? Double down situation. Oh, well, your Cypher Machine is gonna be even slower now. You know? So, like, even after the movement speed nerf, even after the teleport animation nerf for Opera Singer, she still remains on the top of the leaderboards here when it comes to Hunter tier list overall. And I do think that she will remain up here for a good 5 seasons before they release another Hunter, or they decide that they want to change up the meta into a decoding meta. So then chip hunters can come back once again and stop this decoding meta. I don't know, I'm just saying. But like, yeah, overall for Opera Singer, still very strong. There's really not much we can say about Opera Singer. We did talk about her in season 27 tier list, or season 28 tier list, but Opera Singer is strong, honestly. Without much, like, she can rotate from one side of the map to another side within 10 seconds. That's how strong she is, especially with Presence 1 open. You can basically shadow strike into an open area and dash in towards that, you know, shadow form. That's kind of like a foggy blade that trails less behind, but Opera Singer version, right? And then, like, when you open max presence, you gain an even more movement speed because your dashes get increased by 20%, so like you can dash faster. Well, it increases by 20% range and speed wise, right? So you can even dash faster. So Opera Singer's chase is, in a nutshell, from above average to exceptional, to the point that it's scary. She does have a lot of map control. So she basically has a lot of map control from above average to exceptional, very scary. She doesn't have any cipher control, fair enough. But most Opera Singers can just dash towards the survivors where they're decoding. If they're decoding nearby, I'm normal the Cypher Machine. I mean, that's kind of her Cypher control on that sense, but that's only if you bring up normal, right? So then, like, I'm not really going to consider that in. So Opera Singer kind of does not have any Cypher control, you know, on her kit, but like, chair camp boys, let's just say it's below average in that sense, because I do believe that current day meta, the rescuers, they can tank 2 hits, they can at least get the rescue, but if you get double down, you're kind of screwed. You know, but then, like, I also have to add the fact that if your rescuer comes in to rescue and they decide to not use their items to run away from you and take a double down hit, and then the Opera Singer catches up back to you immediately, you're screwed on that side as well. Because, like, for Opera Singer, your rescuer comes in, your rescuer does the rescue, you and your rescuer may run the opposite directions, but for Opera Singer, who cares? Opera Singer dash, 2 dashes, finds your rescuer gets hit, Opera Singer dash stats, finds you, and you get down within 20 seconds. You're screwed. That's a double down situation. That's why Opera Singer is still very strong in that sense as well. Also, in rank, your survivors, you pray your survivors know what they're doing. Because, like, if they don't elbow pad away, or they don't use your watch, or you don't use your ball, then you're kind of screwed. Or they don't use your shovel, then you're kind of screwed. Because a double down situation is really bad when going against Opera Singer, especially when you want her Cypher Rush as well, right? So yeah, Opera Singer is still a part of Opera Party. Okay, last but not least, it's going to be Fool's Gold. Fool's Gold wise, I'm gonna put maybe Fool's Gold here. I'm gonna put Fool's Gold behind Night Watch for now. There is a few reasons for this. Let's just talk about Fool's Gold kit for now. I wasn't able to talk about Fool's Gold last season because I didn't make a tier list, so this season, I mean, after watching so many spectator pros from CN and from EU, well, from CN mainly, I do think I have quite a good gist of Fool's Gold. So what is Fool's Gold? What does Fool's Gold have? Fool's Gold has above average chase early game. Fool's Gold has cipher control. Fool's Gold has a little bit of map control, and Fool's Gold does have a little bit of cipher control. Now, Fool's Gold kind of have everything here, but he is quite a hard character to master. So why is Fool's Gold chase above average? So early game, when you're playing Fool's Gold, you can throw your axe out immediately and then retrieve the axe, in which you basically dash towards that axe. That's a lot of distance made. right? That's a lot of distance you pull from yourself towards the survivor. And his cooldown is like 7-8 seconds, right? So it's not that long. I think it's 6 to 8 seconds. His cooldown for his axe is around that much, right? So it's relatively okay. So it's relatively fast if you compare it to Naiad. I'm quite sure it's 7 seconds, but it's relatively fast. And like, okay, you're able to catch up towards the survivors immediately. You're able to throw your axe out and retrieve the axe, basically teleport straight towards the axe. Brilliant. You can do that with no presence, by the way, so that's a good thing. And Fool's Gold is a part of the chip damage shenanigan bobs. What does this mean? Fool's Gold is able to throw his axe towards a pallet and lock that pallet, in which the survivors either has to take a chip when they run towards that pallet, or they have to rotate towards another pallet, in which for Fool's Gold, you know, that's also fine. What's good about Fool's Gold is if Fool's Gold managed to throw his axe and it basically made breakable walls around that area, the moment Fool's Gold retrieves the axe and throws his axe back towards those breakable walls, the survivor gets a chip damage if they're within the range, if they're hugging the walls, right? So then, like, in that case scenario, you can get a double chip scenario here on towards the survivor and get the survivor down immediately. Now, the chances of that happening is very low, but it's definitely not zero. So for Fool's Gold, you have quite a bit of a strong enough double chip potential. And it's also with the fact that when you're playing Fool's Gold in two-story areas, like areas with chairs, areas with stairs, area with basements, areas, basically two stories areas in general with chairs, right? Well, not chairs, with stairs. When Fool's Gold throws the axe on towards the wall, if the survivor runs upstairs on the stairs and the stairs too narrow, like Ever Sleeping Town, you can guarantee a chip on towards the survivor there as well when they're running up the stairs. So that's actually kind of strong. And it's also with the fact that survivors are not allowed to hug walls when you play against Fool's Gold. So what type of survivors does Fool's Gold counter? First one, Doctor. Right? Doctor hugs pallet. That's one counter. Second one is going to be Priestess. Priestess needs to be near walls to put down his portals. Third one is Mercenary. Mercenary, kind of the same thing, right? And then fourth one is, actually there's probably no more fourth ones, but like you get what I mean, right? Like, so then, like, in that case scenario as well, Fool's Gold kind of does counter two meta survivors, a mercenary and a priestess, in that sense. Okay, but and then what else do we have? When Fool's Gold get a survivor down, Fool's Gold I would say, like, is probably going to be bringing fast pallet breaking, probably trump card detention, fast pallet breaking, or instance detention, fast pallet breaking, depending on what Fool's Gold wants. But, like, aside from that, Fool's Gold's presence one is very strong enough, let's say. Now, let's talk about chair camp and, oh no, sorry, Fool's Gold's no presence is strong enough. It's a good enough kit, right? And so now let's talk about presence one. Okay, presence one allows Fool's Gold to summon a rock. So this rock basically makes breakable walls near certain areas, which means that Fool's Gold don't have to throw axe on towards the walls to make the breakable walls. The breakable walls gets made immediately when he summons this rock. It's within a certain area, but you know, it's good enough. It's good enough, right? So if the survivor decides to walk towards these walls, you can throw the axe towards the walls and chip them once, and then when you retrieve it, you chip them again. So that's a double chip scenario, right? So that's pretty strong. Now, when Fool's Gold open presence one, that means that they have max presence. No, sorry. That means they've someone on chair. And if we talk about Fool's Gold chair camp, Fool's Gold chair camp isn't the best, right? But Fool's Gold can still at least lock a cipher machine when he is chair camping. What most Fool's Gold will do is they will basically throw a rock out towards a cipher machine, since the rock is kind of global. It's like 75% global, depending on how big the map is. But it should be able to cover at least 75% range of the full map, depending on how big the map is. Unless it's just because of the fact that my screen is too small when I was trying to do it, but you know what I mean, right? It could be global, it could be just 75% of a really, really big map, but it's overall global. So what Fool's Gold usually do is they throw the rock on towards a cipher machine, and then they throw the axe on towards a wall, in which if the survivor is still decoding the cipher machine, the survivor will also get chipped. Meanwhile, the wall near the chair is being broken by, you know, Fool's Gold's axe. Now, What is good about this is Fool's Gold is able to perform basic hits when the axe is still out and about. Right, so then like for chair camp scenarios, what I've seen is go play, like let's say playing against mercenary, right? You throw your axe out, you try to time that 10-second properly, you hit the mercenary goes rescue, the axe comes back, you chip the mercenary, and then the mercenary's rescue basically gets disrupted, but he can still rescue for sure, but he's basically one chip down. Mercy is basically one chip down in this sense as well. So what does this mean? It means that mercenary cannot come into rescue again against the Fool's Gold, or else it's going to be too risky. Right, but then mercenary against rescuing against Fool's Gold is always too risky since he's a chip hunter anyways. But like, you guys know what I mean, right? In that case scenario, we don't even need to say mercenary. You could say like, I don't know, you can say anyone that you could basically say anyone else. Because like if a survivor is one chip down and you throw that big rock, make unbreakable walls, and then start destroying walls near you, the survivor basically can't decode that cipher machine anymore because they're one chip down. And like, that's not the only play, right? If a Fool's Gold wants, they could just throw the axe immediately on towards the wall, retrieve it, so it goes into cooldown, and then like the moment the rescuer comes in, you need to play a lot of mind games. You need to play a lot of mind games in regards to like, okay, when am I going to rescue? How am I going to rescue? I'm going to get a double chip scenario here or not? Because like, if, as we said as well, when an unbreakable wall is made, and let's say the mercenary comes in to rescue, he needs to be near the chair to do the rescue, and the unbreakable wall's range is near the chair. The area is basically included with the chair, right? So then like when mercenary goes into rescue, or when any rescuer goes into rescue, they need to play a really long mind game, because Fool's Gold can just throw the axe, chip the mercenary, cancel the rescue, and then if the mercenary is panicking and wants to rescue again, he can retrieve the axe, cancel the rescue, and hit the mercy. So mercy can't tank a terror shock hit, but mercy is basically down in this case scenario as well. He's basically dead right after Titan is gone. And it could be considered as a failed rescue if it's any other survivor, but since it's mercenary, he can tank terror shock hit. What can we do? So then like for Fool's Gold, he does have chair camp potential there as well, right? So then like chair camp potential wise, let's just say it's average. It's average enough. And you can lock cipher machines during chair camp. So it's pretty average, cipher and chair camp wise. And then when Fool's Gold open max presence, when max presence is open, he is able to charge his axe and throw it towards the wall, and it basically immediate chips the survivors. That's kind of what that does. That's kind of what Fool's Gold does. So you don't necessarily need to how do I say, it doesn't need to be done. It doesn't need to be prepared. The wall doesn't need to be prepared. Once you throw the axe on towards the wall, it chips them immediately and it goes into a 20-second cooldown. TLDR. That's what that does, right? So then like, I guess when Fool's Gold open max presence, he has an even stronger chipping potential. And if the survivor doesn't want to and if the survivor runs in an open area, you can throw the axe and then catch up towards them immediately. If the survivor taikais you can just basically throw the axe on towards the wall and chip them when they run through pallets or windows. But like overall for Fool's Gold, he is still pretty niche. Now, can you sell against a Fool's Gold? That's definitely yes. Now, can you rescue against a Fool's Gold? That's definitely yes. Is Fool's Gold chair camp better than Gala and Bomb? Definitely not. Is Fool's Gold chair camp better than Naiad Axeboy? Definitely not. Is Fool's Gold chair camp better than Clerk? Around the same, let's say. Maybe Fool's Gold is a little bit better. Is Fool's Gold Chase better than Geisha, better than BQ, better than Night Watch, better than Opera Singer, better than Hermit? I wouldn't say so. I would say not really. And then is Fool's Gold's map pressure? Well, he doesn't really have that much map pressure. It's a bit below average, but you know what I mean. But like, in this case scenario as well, right? Fool's Gold kind of does have everything, but for me right now, Fool's Gold is kind of like, okay, I do have all of these things. I do have chip potential, but it's still not enough in a sense that it will bring him to Opera Party. Because yes, you can still rescue against Fool's Gold. It's not like it's that hard, right? You can just play a little bit of mind games, or if you bring the right rescuers, you know what to do. And then like, there's also the fact that, okay, you could possibly find someone immediately, but if they do manage to like pull distance away from you like Naiad, then in that scenario as well, like they should be able to continue for 60 seconds, and 60 second wise a normal rescue. Still a tie game, but I guess overall for Fool's Gold, still pretty niche on that side as well. Still pretty niche on that side as well. He kind of does have a bit of everything, but also not the best with that bit of everything. A little bit of a non-mind game here and there. Definitely could lock areas like Naiad, a little bit better than Naiad in my opinion, but like for Fool's Gold overall, I think he does belong on the niche side. But of course, that's going to be the end for Season 30 Hunter tier list. Feel free to rebuttal me in the comments below. And I will see you in Season 30 Survivor tier list, since the Puppeteer just came out as well. Now, of course, you may disagree with me. I have to say this at the end of every one of these. You may disagree with me. You can rebuttal me in the comments. I will look at it. Maybe I'll change my opinion as well for Season 31 Hunter tier list. But overall, for now, hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully this tier list did manage to help you. And I will see you on the next video. Bye-byes for now.